Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
All right. So we're talking about channeling today. Is that what's going on?
Actually, it's not. I
Okay.
know what channeling is and I know what automatic writing is. But in this particular case, these were messages and teachings in the book An Angel Told Me So that were received, dictated word for word from spirit teachers from the other side. Dictated word for word that my mother actually took down with an electric typewriter as she saw words. Now, channeling, for those who may not know, there are people that are able to channel spirit teachers or angels, depending on your preferred definition. And they sometimes will even speak in a different voice as this spirit teacher is channeled through them, and they'll normally share a message or a teaching for an individual that they may be doing a reading for. Automatic writing is a little different. People will sit down with a tablet and a pen, tune in, relax their mind, and their hand will start to move. And they will actually have their hand will write out a message. I've never done that. My mother was never able to do that. Like I said, we all receive, we're all spoken to, we're all guided. We all have our own spirit teachers, which are angels, just viewed from a different perspective. And when my mother had received in thought, like most all of us do, from time to time, but when she was led to sit down in these dedicated sessions, she had an electric typewriter set up in her kitchen. And she would say a prayer, ask for protection, because you are opening your mind. And she would see 3 or 4 words just float into her mind and hang there. They would not go away until she typed them. Once she typed those 3 or 4 words, they would just fade away and 3 or 4 more would show up. That's how she got these messages. Single space typed, full page, many times with no paragraphs. And in these messages and teachings, these spirit teachers repeatedly refer to themselves in first person. We feel, we believe, we advise. Our view encompasses more than your view can comprehend. One line in a message said, "We hear the spirit cries above the words you speak." Who talks like that? I don't talk like that.
Sure. Yeah, they tell us that all of the answers are within, and all we need to do is ask in order to get those. So I believe that all of us can have the ability to have our questions answered and our prayers heard and our, find guidance and clarity and direction just through this.
Oh, I agree. I agree. Now, these particular messages, we each have, people believe we have a guardian angel, a spirit teacher. The Urantia book, which is an interesting book, talks about a personalized thought adjuster. And it says at the age of our first moral decision, which is usually around 4 and 4.5 years old, when we make a decision that shows that we know right from wrong, we are assigned a personalized thought adjuster, spirit teacher, guardian angel, that stays with us for life to help us in our choices and decisions. But one of the problems that we have is that pesky little gift called free will. And we have the ability to accept or reject any advice, guidance, direction, or support that we're given. And if we're led, well, I knew I shouldn't have bought that car. I knew I shouldn't have gone out with that person. I knew I shouldn't have taken that job. But we decide to do it anyway. And we normally find out that it doesn't work out as well than if we had paid attention and listened to our spirit teachers that knew what was in our best interest.
Sure. Yeah, I think a lot of the problem is that, we're in such a weird space and time where We have religion, and those who are religious believe in a lot of these things, but then a lot of people don't believe in a lot of these things. But regardless, we hear the voices within ourselves, and we don't necessarily always trust them. And, we've really become disconnected from our own mind, much less our spirit. We know we've been disconnected from our spirit mostly, but we don't realize how much also been disconnected from our own mind. So, learning how to trust that and lean into that is difficult for a lot of people, especially those coming from more traumatic backgrounds.
Well, that's true. That's true. And people with a foundation of faith, I was brought up with a foundation of faith, church-based, Bible-based. My mother was a daily reader of her Bible. My grandmother was a Pentecostal pastor. She pastored a small Pentecostal church. My uncle was a fiery Pentecostal preacher. He founded churches in Florida, Kentucky, and Ohio, and he could move a crowd. And people who are unsure about this, especially people with a foundation of faith, the information that's shared from our spirit teachers normally, most always for each of us, comes into our minds in thought. And an incoming thought has a different feel in your mind than a thought that you think yourself, a
Mm,
thought that you originate. It's a subtle difference. But once you understand the difference and can pay attention to it, you realize that any thoughts that are coming to your mind are normally for your benefit and beneficial. Now, if a negative thought does sneak in, then you just simply disregard it. We
mhm.
all have our own thought system, like a mini solar system, and we can accept or reject any thoughts, ideas, or information that we're given. And we can also establish an aura or a filter of protection that we can put around our minds so that no negative thoughts, no negative um, information is made known to our mind.
Mhm.
And you can do that with the various forms of affirmations.
Mhm.
I'm sure you know what affirmations are.
Sure.
And people can establish that filter. And then with confidence, they can accept the information and guidance and support that's given. But they still have that opportunity to make up their own minds.
Yeah. Yeah. Mindset work for all of its benefits. I find it so funny how people would rather go to the gym and work out really hard for 3 hours straight rather than sit with their own thoughts. And that's so funny because it takes so much effort to do all of the things in the physical realm that, yes, move us to where we want to be, but at a very slow pace. Whereas we could get a lot quicker, we got a lot further, a lot quicker, a lot easier if we moved through the realms of our mind and spirit first. Ah, because everything starts in the mind, the thought comes up, the thought comes up, and then we choose whether to move in that direction or this direction. And oftentimes we move entirely too quickly because we've been programmed to go, 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 be productive, move, hustle culture. An idle mind is dangerous. But in all honesty, the more space we give our mind, the clearer things are and the less mistakes we make. For example, when my children are hurrying to make a bowl of cereal, say, and they're rushing around and they're being clumsy and they're being reckless, then oftentimes they spill it and then we have a whole mess to clean up. And that took twice as long. Whereas if they had just taken their time, breathed in between the movements, they wouldn't have spilled the milk and we would have gotten to from point A to point B a lot quicker.
Well, that's true. Don't we wish that we had the energy that they have at that age? And a lot of people, I mean, a physical workout, to take your mind off. So many of us, I feel like I sit too much and either in front of the computer or, with some of the things that we do. And I try and stay as active as I possibly can. But for, people who want to develop this ability to communicate with their own spirit teachers, they need to be able to sit and clear their mind. Again, establish that filter of protection and then just submit whatever it is you're looking for an answer for, or an answer for someone else that you're trying to help in their life, and then expect an answer. If you make a request and a plea that you would like some help with this, you should expect an answer because it will come. And for people with a foundation of faith, like I was brought up, and you, I'm sure, and most other people, I recently read a post that I thought was really interesting. And it said, I don't want to just believe, I want to know. And a lot of people have come to that point. We've been told to have faith for 2,000 years. For 2,000 years now, we've been told to just have faith and believe. And people are coming to a point where, and there's so much new information out there, nothing that conflicts with their foundation of faith. The nice thing about a foundation is it's something that you can build on. Build on your foundation of faith. But if you don't want to just believe, if you want to know, then information such as these messages and teachings in An Angel Told Me So. And it's an amazing how these messages and teachings seem to touch everyone who reads them. Now, volume 1 was pretty much
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
A collection of messages and teachings dictated word for word through my mother, but these messages were given specifically for my mother, addressed to her, and then a message addressed to me. But it's like these messages and teachings are woven with a universal thread. And everyone who has read these messages have said, well, this sounds like what I'm dealing with. This sounds like they're talking to me. And I tell people, I say, when you get the book, read each message once as it was given for my mom and given for me. Then read that same message again as if it's being presented for you and see what hits. It's amazing what hits. It's almost a little spooky. It's like, how do they know? How do they know what I'm dealing with?
So we're talking about a book that your mom received, but then she transcribed it and then you turned it into a book for her.
Well, these messages and teachings were received over a period of 22 years. I'm doing 3 volumes of the book. They are messages and teachings. Like I said, volume 1 were pretty much personal messages to her and to me. But as the years went by, hired teachers started moving in, giving even deeper and more profound teachings, not necessarily addressed to her or to me, but would mention us in the message. And what I do is I weave a narrative as to what was going on in her life and my life in between each one of these sessions. But these sessions, these messages and teachings are just so extremely personal to everyone who reads them. And these spirit teachers repeatedly refer to themselves in first person. We feel, we believe, we advise. Our view encompasses more than your view can comprehend. One line in a message on my website, spiritspeaks.com, there's a television interview that my mother gave in Cincinnati. Posted on her interview is a message from volume 2 of the book, which is not out yet. And this was the only time in a session where she was led to sit down and receive. 2 different spirit teachers moved in the same session, gave 2 different messages, and signed 2 different names. And it was obvious that the second teacher was a different teacher than the first because the whole cadence and phrasing of the message was different. I actually have that first teacher's message here. It's just a little more than a long paragraph. May I share this with you and your audience?
Okay.
So this was the first teacher that came through. There is a resurrection period through which man must travel in order to come into the realm of things godlike. You are to consume and digest all that is given here, as this comes from one highly qualified to meet the needs of this generation. You are not the sole property of yourselves. God still holds the everlasting command over your being, and in him must one take refuge. You are to be considered as one who has been stripped of all belongings and left to die by the wayside. In this manner, are you then open to any help that would be forthcoming? You are by your very nature ones who would depend on your own intellect to carry you through. However, by giving of your soul into the hands of God, do you prosper and develop more freely into that which denies the outcome of some situations, knowing full well that it is the hand of God leading and directing you so that you may arise victorious in the end. There is never a time when you will be without the Father, nor his ever-loving approaches to see that you follow the path that directs you homeward. Take note that we say homeward. As your heavenly Father so resides in that vast and surmountable environment of time and space, so shall ye abide in joint communication with him by the grace with which he covers you and by your ability to accept this grace and use it for your own development. There are others here who wish to make themselves known to you, so I will step aside for this time. My love and devotion follows you as you trod onward but ever faithful to your goal. That message was signed, your loving guide. Now that next to the last line is the line that makes me sit up and take notice. He says there are others here who wish to make themselves known to you. My question is, who are the others and where is here? What do you mean there are others here? Where are you in relation to us on this physical plane?
Okay. Do we have an answer to that?
Yes, they're in the spiritual realm. They
Yeah.
are in the spiritual realm that is adjacent to this physical plane. People with a foundation of faith would call that heaven. But I believe that the spiritual realm is so much more than just heaven. And that spiritual realm exists adjacent to this physical plane. One line in a message said, we are here for you in abundance, as close as your heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how close the spiritual realm is. And we have two-way communication, direct communication with our spirit teachers in the spiritual realm. And they in turn can hear our pleas, our prayers, and know what it is that we need. And I tell people, I said, there really is no death. We never really die. It's just graduation. We ride around in these bodies the way we ride around in our cars. These bodies are just a vehicle to negotiate this physical plane. And then when we cross over, when our body has worn out or we're taken by accident or disease, then we cross over to an evaluation center to find out what it is we did wrong, what we could have done better, how we treated people. We don't really know what's on the other side. And we don't really know the medium that separates us. Is it a veil, a vibration, a frequency? We don't really know. We'll all find out eventually. But just the fact that we have open communication with that spiritual realm is comforting to know that we're not alone and that we have hope for the future.
Sure. Yeah, I don't think it's actually like a realm beside ours, but more as like mixed into ours, all encompassing within everything and everything. Kind of like radio waves. We're aware that radio waves are kind of like swimming in them all of the time. We can't see them, we can't feel them, we can't really interact with them. We do have devices to measure them, but it's kind of the same, and then we have all sorts of waves, honestly. So you got like the 4G, 5G, internet, Wi-Fi, we're just adding waves all the time with our technology. So it's only a matter of time that we can develop a technology that can detect these things. And we may already have it and we just don't even realize that that's what we're detecting. So, proof is kind of subjective. Yes, we've been told to have faith, but having faith does prove itself if you follow it.
That's true. That's true. Now, whether, like I said, it could be a frequency, it could even be another dimension, but we are so close to it that it's a two-way communication that they can communicate with us in real time. In real time.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was working around the kitchen one day and these words started to come into her mind. She knew it was incoming. She wasn't sure if she really wanted to put these messages and teachings in a book. She'd been praying about it, and I actually was not able to do the book and hook up with a publisher until she had passed away. But she received this message. She knew it was incoming. She picked up pen and paper. She had beautiful handwriting. And this was a message that she received and thought. May I share this with you and your audience?
Okay.
Emptiness is part of fulfillment. Let your resources fill the void left so that distinction of your purpose can be found. Expression is always self-explanatory. Therefore, look inside and anchor all your beliefs beside those still waters that will take away your troubled view and renew your strength to recapture that which was lost but is now found to be adequate to pursue the course set before you. And as you reconcile your being to represent those qualities that have been left intact, God will see to it that although circumstances have been trying, to say the least, your weariness will disappear as clouds once removed allow the sun to shine to dispel the gloom and darkness that has pervaded your countenance. And as once described before, a token of this presence will be deposited to your account and books recorded in his name.
Nice. Sounds like oracle cards.
It does. It does. But I mean, these are direct messages from spirit teachers from the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And we each have our own.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people just starting out like this, communicating, asking, like I said, you can receive in thought, you can write it down, take notes. Not everyone is going to necessarily receive information that deep. It just depends on your level of progression and spiritual maturity, I guess would be the best way to describe it. But the information is available to all of us. Now, when the two spirit teachers moved in that session, the first spirit teacher moved out, a second spirit teacher moved in, dictated a page and a half, long message. But the last paragraph was the one there. These spirit teachers in these messages, they will either end the message with a defining last sentence or a really deep, profound last paragraph. And this second teacher's message, last paragraph, may I share this with you and your audience?
Okay.
So this was the second teacher that moved in. You are not as sheep herded here and there, but you are likened into the lamb that is cared for individually, nourished and loved until the full and total development allows it to be master of itself. So is man so kept, and denied only those things that would not in the long run nourish his spirit. God is all wise and loving in his dispensations. We are not to judge the workings of our Father, nor are we to judge each other. Work always to improve your own beings, for in the end time, there lies your soul, with all the nourishment that you have given it, totally dependent upon the outcome of your intentions. And that message was signed, your loving spiritual teacher.
Yeah.
So there will be an end time when we cross over.
Sure. Nothing's permanent.
I
The only
agree.
constant is change. And we've been getting messages similar to these for I guess thousands of years, considering if you just start with the Bible, even though there's older texts like that also tell us things like this. It's just taken us a ridiculously long time to stop being stubborn and bullheaded and start listening and figuring it out. And maybe a lot of the problem historically has been that though teachings and the words aren't in layman's terms. And so, there until very recently in time, there's still tons of people in the world who are illiterate, and their only form of understanding communication in words is through their own small town vernacular. And that's possibly made it very difficult for people to fully grasp the understandings of what they're trying to speak to us.
Oh, I agree. I agree. And people with a foundation of faith, they read the Bible, and throughout the Bible, spirit teachers, angels spoke to the various authors of the various books of the Bible throughout the Old Testament and the New Testament. And then did they stop talking or did we stop listening?
Mm,
And people with the foundation of faith, they've been told, beware of the spirits, don't communicate with the other side. And some people get confused about spirits and spirit teachers. These are not spirits. They're not spirits floating around from the other side or on this side. These are celestial beings from the spiritual realm. They are spiritual teachers, which are angels. The exact same thing as angels, just viewed from a different perspective. And the Bible says, test the spirit. We can do the same thing with these spirit teachers. We have decisions to make, we have things to deal with. We communicate with these spirit teachers and allow their advice, guidance, and direction to be made known to our mind. Now, that doesn't mean you won't still have car problems or problems with families. We all have things that we have to deal with on a daily basis.
mm,
But it's just such a comfort to know and being able to read what someone else has received and allow that information to feel like it's pertinent to what you're going through and say, I can deal with this. I can handle this. I'm not alone.
hmm Yeah, just finding the tools to be able to navigate life is what all of us need, for sure.
And life is a journey. We're
Hmm
all on a path. And what you do and what I do on this journey is we're shining a light on the path. It's like we've come into information that we know is available and we're sharing it with people who could use the help,
hmm
really need the help. And you just, like if you're in the darkness and you shine a light on the path and say, here.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Take a look at this step. Go here. But then people make decisions on their own, ignoring the advice, guidance, and direction from their own spirit teachers or angels, and they go off on tangents. Sometimes they find themselves so far off on a tangent. It's like, well, how do I get back on my path? How did I get so far away from where I should be? And information like this is helpful to direct people back on a path.
Sure. Sure. There's lots of information out there that's helpful to direct people back on paths. It's just and when you really get into analyzing all of the different informational paths, they're pretty well all the same. Treat others with kindness, no judging, take care of yourself, take care of those around you, gratitude, acceptance, community, generosity. There's lots of different things. I think people, uh, touching on a point you mentioned earlier, though, of communing with spirits, people are very afraid to do that. People are afraid of their own thoughts because they're concerned that the devil's trying to get in and direct them and they don't have the willpower. And I teach meditation. And I teach yoga and meditation, and I routinely have people locally attack me in Facebook groups, in local Facebook groups, about yoga and meditation being devil work and how people of Christian faith should not go anywhere near it.
Why would can't understand that at all? I mean, that doesn't really make any sense.
Well, you just
Uh,
have to understand the divide between where people's mentality is versus because you have to go through the knowledge of understanding to be able to get to the knowledge, like the understanding part. You have to go through the knowledge part. But they've been so conditioned to be aware of the devil and any of their false teachings that anything that may look like a false prophet, they just throw walls up. You just have to understand like human psychology and especially like trauma. Religious trauma is a very big thing that people have to overcome in order to open their minds to these types of things.
Oh, I agree. And I mean, it's their loss. It's their loss by being so rigid in their religious belief that they're not open to spiritual material that does
Sure.
not conflict with anything that they've been taught, other than the possibility of, a final place, either heaven or hell, that we go for all eternity with no chance for reprieve. I had a lady that I knew who had a son that was constantly getting into trouble, constantly. From the time he was 14 to the time he was in his mid 30s, the money that they spent on attorneys and fines and bail and counselors. I mean, it was just a real shame. And this lady was Baptist, strict foundation of faith, daily reader of her Bible. And she knew the information that I was involved in. And I have, for the longest time questioned heaven and hell that we go to for all eternity. And I asked her one time, I said, is there anything that your son could do, anything at all, that would cause you not to want to give him another chance? And she just put her head down and said no. And I said, what makes you think God loves us any less? Do you really believe that God is going to sentence us to eternal punishment and damnation with no chance for reprieve, no chance for a do-over, because we were stupid, because we made bad choices and decisions, chose bad friends, had bad parents? Or do you think it's possible that we are given another chance, that this is not just a one-shot, blink of an eye existence, no matter how many years that we live? And if you're open to that, then you're open to reincarnation.
Okay. Yeah.
And there, I recommend actually two movies that I'll share with your audience. Two movies that I think will just, watch these with an open mind. I don't know if you've ever seen them before. The first one is called Defending Your Life. Defending Your Life, and that has Albert Brooks and Meryl Streep in it.
Okay. Well, we love her.
And the second one is called Always, and that has Richard Dreyfuss and Holly Hunter in it. I'll actually share a third one with you that's cerebral. It's a think piece, and it's called The Last Mimsy, Mimzy.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
And since you have children, your children will love that movie.
Yeah, I think I've
It's a
actually heard
movie.
of that one.
You have heard of it?
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a movie about these two kids that find what they think are a box of toys on a beach. They turn out to be artifacts sent back from the future by a scientist.
Cool.
But this girl that's in there, her name is Emma in the movie. You talk about someone who is way above her age in intelligence. And at the beginning of the movie, this teacher has a class of students out in a field. There's a lot of flowers and stuff around. And she talks to the class and she says, gather round. She said, I want to show you a story. She then has the students all tune in, drop down in level, and she proceeds to show this story to her class telepathically.
Are you familiar with the telepathy tapes?
Telepathy tapes?
Hmm.
No, I'm not.
They've done research that has proven telepathy in autistic children and their caregivers.
Are they more receptive to
The theory is
thoughts, information?
most of these autistic children are nonverbal, non-communicative.
Right.
So the theory is that we all have this ability. It's just that they're stuck essentially because a lot of people, there's this misconception about autistic kids and that they're um, their IQ is much lower than regular people, but that's not necessarily the case. It's just that their nervous system and their body doesn't work properly. So more or less they're trapped within their own body and within their own mind. So they just spend more time in their mental realm than we do, who are able to navigate our physical world a little bit easier, a little bit better. So
Right,
they've developed this ability, whereas kind of like a muscle atrophies if you don't use it. Most of us have this, essentially atrophied muscle, but um, practicing it, working at it, exercising it, which is what you've touched on, we're all capable of doing these things.
that's
Um,
true.
and so they have it's just stronger in them, but they've proven this that they've had their caregivers be in like separate rooms and stuff, and they've been able to do tests.
Right. Well, yeah, I believe that that ability is innate. It's an innate ability, an ability that we're born with.
Sure.
And the more that you practice, the more that you listen, the more that you pay attention, you're not required to obey. But if you have the opportunity where a choice, you're at a crossroads and you need to make a choice, and you can either pray or you can just reach out to your spirit teacher, whatever you're comfortable with. Um, People with a foundation of faith should not be afraid of being receptive to spirit teachers. Again, angels, just think angels. And we all have our own. When when I do a number of these interviews, and they will ask, the host will say, well, your grandmother received sermons dictated to her mind, your mother received. They said, do you receive? And I said, yes. I said, I'm spoken to pretty much on a regular basis. And when I was first looking for a publisher, I was on a number of different publisher websites. One of the websites asked questions about your work. One of the questions was, what makes your material unique? Why would anyone want to read this? Great question. And I was sitting where I'm sitting right now at my computer. I didn't really even ask for an answer. I just relaxed my mind.
Mhm.
And an answer was started to be dictated to my mind. It was 12 lines long. May I share this answer with you and your audience?
Okay.
So the question was, what makes your material unique? And this is the answer that I was given. The uniqueness of any material is in the manner in which it touches the soul. An open and searching mind pulls the soul and the body in which it inhabits onward and upward with hunger and determination in its quest for spiritual nourishment, ever mindful that the path upon which we walk is the path toward God. Lives lived, experiences endured, goals accomplished, and loved ones lost are all encounters upon that path. Strive always for the highest possible communication with our Heavenly Father. Believe in yourself as the Father within you is guiding, leading, directing, and comforting you upon this journey that we call life. Blessings be upon you as you walk your chosen pathway. That was not me. I take no credit for that whatsoever, but I thank them for the information.
Sure. Are you familiar with Dolores Cannon?
Doris, who?
Dolores Cannon.
I am not.
Okay, she was a hypnotist who wrote several books, at least six, probably like nine or ten. But they're all where she put people in a hypnotized state and they explored various things. So, various things of the world, the realm, the universe, the other side, the spirit world, back in time, forward in time, lots of cool stuff and all of that. Nostradamus he had like three books between her and him, just him, um, where she claimed to be in communication with him, not from the spirit realm, but from his point in time in space, because time is illusion and thing like it's not actually linear like we perceive it to be. It's everything happening all at once. It's just we're kind of stuck in this linear perception of it. So, uh, there's been other cases where people have been able to communicate with, supposedly, communicate with people who are not. So, in our day and time and point on the timeline, yes, they'd be considered dead, but they're communicating from their space and time where they say they are not dead. They are actually living their life, and it's a point in time in their life. So it's all overlapping and coinciding.
right? Well, there is no death.
Right. It's all
There is no death.
connected.
And what you're talking about is similar to what Edgar Casey did. Are you familiar with Edgar Casey?
I've heard the name.
Yeah, he actually lived in Ohio, in Dayton, Ohio, for a year and a half. Edgar Casey was amazing. And on my website, spiritspeaks.com, there is a tab at the top for great, it's a Great Links tab. And it's a link to two books that I recommend. They should get mine first. An angel told me so. But there's a book by Sidney Kirkpatrick, and it's just called Edgar Casey, An American Prophet. And Edgar Casey was born in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. It's about an hour and 15 minutes west of Mammoth Cave. Brought up Baptist, extremely religious. But when he was 19 years old, he was working in a photography studio in Hopkinsville. No one had cameras back then. So if you wanted a family portrait, wedding, graduation, newborn, you went to a studio, had a picture taken, and then for 25 or 30 cents, you could get a print. Casey, we're talking the late 1800s. I think he was born in 1877. So this would have been the late 1800s when he was working in this studio. And I don't remember what the situation was, but a friend of his put him under hypnosis. And when he went under, he started speaking as this source, this high source that had knowledge of anatomy and medical knowledge that Casey did not have in his waking state. And it was so detailed and so specific, they brought in a stenographer to start taking down everything that he said. And he could see into people's bodies like an x-ray machine, and they didn't have to be in the same room or the same town.
Mm-hmm.
And he lived a lot of different places, Virginia Beach, or Selma, Alabama, Texas, Dayton, Ohio. And he eventually settled in Virginia Beach. Some money people, he founded a hospital that would treat people based on these readings. And the hospital went under because he wouldn't charge enough for his gift to keep the hospital afloat.
I
But
do
on the
remember
grounds of that
that story
hospital,
now.
they've built the ARE, Association of Research and Enlightenment. It's in Virginia Beach. And they
Mhm.
have a library there with over 40,000 medical readings that Casey got in his lifetime.
Didn't he end up like saving a bunch of babies that would have otherwise died for some reason or another?
And the information that he received on various treatments was a little unorthodox.
Hmm.
He had one lady that had she was suffering from an iodine deficiency, and he had gone under, and they were told to tape a fresh fish to her back.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
And leave the fish taped to her back for 3 or 4 days. And the iodine from the fish leached into her body and cleared up her problem. No
Can you
doctor
imagine
would
have a
do that.
rotting fish taped to your back for 3 or 4 days?
Well, I don't know how much rotting it was doing, but I'm sure they had air freshener or open windows. But still, if the doctors are at a loss on how to treat you
Sure.
and what to do, it was an amazing it's an amazing account, and
Yeah.
he was really good. But yeah, people, however they tune in, whatever action that they take, believing that it's possible, establishing that filter of protection, that there's nothing to be afraid of.
Hmm.
And even the belief, they say that if you believe in negative entities, if you believe in evil, if you personify that into a belief in Lucifer or the devil, that belief is what empowers that negative entity to have
Yes,
possible effect over you.
exactly.
Your belief is what is what creates that entity.
Yes,
And if you know that that entity does not exist or has been defeated, then there is no negative power that can have any effect on you because you're protected.
absolutely.
And your spirit teachers will
Are you
help
familiar
with that.
are you familiar with the concept of siddhis?
Of what, please?
Siddhis. Sidhis.
I've not heard the word before.
It's a yogi term. Siddhis are spiritual gifts, essentially, kind of like what we're talking about. And I don't remember exactly how many. There's like 75 common ones, and then there's others also not so common. But they're stuff like this. Telepathy and healing and seeing and hearing things that aren't there, smelling things that aren't there. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. But are you familiar with the book Autobiography of a Yogi?
I am not.
Okay, I think you would love this. Love this book. It's written as an autobiography and of this yogi who lived in India in the 1800s into the 1900s. So he didn't die until I think the 1940s, something like. So it was fairly recent. And we have documentation of him and most of who he talks about in the book really being people who existed and were the people that he says were in these books. But he has fantastical accounts where even though it's written as an autobiography and we have the documents and the proof to back up the people and the events and all of the things, it reads like a fantastical fiction film, like where he's traveling around with other yogis. And so, and let me specify that we're speaking about yogis not in the sense of the modern term of yogi, like I'm a yogi, but I'm not trying to learn how to float or teleport. But these were yogis that were dedicated monks, essentially. So they
Right.
lived in groups of their own and just meditated all day, every day. And as he was traveling around meeting other yogis, he was able to meet yogis who had these siddhis and could uh, teleport and float and heal and um, speak telepathically and across great distances. And it's just a wonderful, very intriguing book that leaves your brain absolutely blasted open. Because again, like it's an autobiography,
Right.
but all of these fantastical claims.
Well, the nice thing about information like that is it's applicable to everyone that reads it.
Hmm.
Just like the material, these messages and teachings, it's like you're being spoken to as you read these messages. And
Hmm.
I think all of the abilities that you spoke about, telepathy, um, you know, any information that's made known to our mind, I believe those are all natural innate abilities that we're all given.
Hmm.
And it's up to us to develop those or at least not lock them out because we're afraid that it might be negative somehow, or that it might invite a negative entity into our mind.
Hmm.
And there is no evil, there is no negativity if you establish that filter of protection.
Hmm.
I mean, that's the biggest thing that people need to do. The most helpful thing that they can do is to realize that they have the power, the ability to establish a filter of protection, to control their thoughts. Your thought system is your own. And any thought that you think that you don't agree with, you can just discard, just
Hmm.
get rid of it. And by establishing that filter, any thought that comes into your mind that's incoming, that is beneficial to you, you can just incorporate into your thought system.
Hmm. Yeah, and people want to be too, they want to make it harder than it is. They don't think it should be easy, so they're surely I'm not doing it right. But so they want they want you to give them a 20 bullet points of how to. And it doesn't have to be that hard. You really just have to intend that you're protected and that nothing is going to hurt you and all of. Would you like to take over from here?
Pardon?
Would you like to take over? Tell people
Oh,
how?
no. Yeah, you're fine. I agree with you. I was just agreeing with everything that you said.
Sure, I was just going to let you have your own spin on it.
Oh,
Because there's a thousand ways you can do it, and that's the beautiful thing is that you can make it your own.
well, that's true. That's true. Um, reading information where somebody has already gone before you, like the yoga that you talked about, or these messages and teachings that seem to be so personal in An Angel Told Me So. I'm just connecting with a new publisher. I'm going to do a revised edition of Volume 1, and then I've got Volume 2 and Volume 3 to publish. And like I said, as these messages and teaching continued, higher teachers, it's like they started spreading the word on the other side. It's like, look at the willing receptacle that we have found in Wilma Jean. And these messages and teachings became deeper and more profound, longer. And one of the messages, I'm pretty sure it's in volume 3. And like I said, these spirit teachers repeatedly refer to themselves in first person. We feel, we believe, we advise, our, us. On rare occasions, an I will make himself known, like that teacher that said, there are others here who wish to make themselves known to you, so I will step aside at this time. And in volume 3, there was a message. She had received a full page, single space typed. And halfway through the second page, she stopped. And she said, she asked her own question and typed it. She said, who are the I and the we? Who is the I and the we that is presenting this information? And they congratulated her for asking the question and then gave a 3-paragraph answer that was really long and deep, more than I would care to share right now, in this conversation, because we're, running a little low on time here. But it's an amazing answer that they identified themselves, talked about who they were, what their mission was, and thanked her for asking for clarification as to who these spirit teachers really were. So for anyone who's interested in either finding their own spirit teachers and being able to develop this connection, which we all have, that we're all born with, or use your foundation of faith to protect your mind and then ask to be able to connect with your own spirit teachers because they are available as close as our heartbeat.
Yeah. You know, a great way to close this is to mention that Jesus said that we were capable of all of the things he was capable of.
As greater works as I do, even greater works shall ye also do.
Hmm.
Now, why would the divine Son of God say that to mortal men?
Mm.
If we have that same ability, if we have that same, not really power, but connection, then why do people, why does organized religion teach that we are so separate and that when we cross over, that we, for all eternity, we go to the good place or the bad place?
Hmm.
And I've always questioned, what are you going to do in heaven? If there's no choices to be made, no path to walk, if everything is taken care of for you and you have nothing to worry about, wouldn't that make an individual soul pretty stagnant?
Hmm.
I mean, if you were on a path, you're going to like that movie, Defending Your Life. You're going to like that. And again, are we really going to be sentenced to eternal punishment with no chance for reprieve or a do-over? I mean, look at the children born to Bill Gates and Steven Spielberg or any wealthy family. They'll want for nothing.
Hmm.
Granted, they'll have their challenges, but that kind of wealth and connection makes all the difference in the world.
Hmm.
And then you've got children born to alcoholic fathers, drug addicted mothers, poverty. I mean, you could be born in China, North Korea, Iran, Russia. And what is it that decides what set of parents that we're born to and what location on this planet that we're born in? Is it just luck of the draw? Is it just random? Did Bill Gates and Steven Spielberg's kids win the lottery and we didn't? Or are we assigned to a certain set of parents in a certain social station for whatever it is we're supposed to learn in this lifetime? And I believe that we are assigned.
Yeah, so the judgment that we incur at death is potentially what is your next life going to be like?
And is it really judgment or is it more of an evaluation?
Yeah,
I don't
for
know if
sure.
we're really judged. I think it's more of an evaluation as and to be able to look back. And that's really what that movie Defending Your Life is all about. I'd like to get a response once you get a chance to take a look at it, or your audience also. I have a contact page on my website, spiritspeaks.com. And if any of your listeners would want to contact me, I would be happy to share additional information from volume 2 of the book and that message that I received.
Awesome. Yeah, and tell them again, spiritspeaks.com is your website,
Correct.
and they can get the book there.
The book is available on the website. The book is available through Barnes & Noble. It's in Barnes & Noble's system. Ingram is my national distributor. Any bookstore in the country can order. They all deal with Ingram. They can get the book, and it's also on Amazon.
Cool. Awesome. And we'll make sure that we link all of that down below so they don't have to go searching too hard.
Thank you, Savannah. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for being here today.
Thank you. I hope that we can get together again sometime and talk about this.
Yeah, I'd love to see how things develop for you.
Thank you.
All right.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on chumbacasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at chumbacasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's chumbacasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.